In all honesty, for me, dancing is where I feel most myself. So when I step out on stage, I feel like I can express my inner person. And it sounds very cheesy and very open, but it's absolutely true. I can be a little bit anxious outside of the studio and outside of the performance space, and social situations make me feel a bit odd, but as soon as I step out on stage, all of my confidence comes and I feel like Joe. Within my first season, I stepped into Symphonic Variations, which is quite an iconic piece to step into very young, and I was very young, and I spent the entire season working really hard, and I think the artistic team picked up on that and they gave me that huge opportunity, which I was so unbelievably grateful for. And that ballet is just incredible. The music, it brings, even now after doing it, that music warms my heart. The memories that I have on that stage I'll never forget. And to step into that hard of a technical role so early on, I was very nervous and I was very scared, but like I said before, when I step out on stage, I feel most myself. The anxiety was outside of the studio, but as soon as I put that costume on and the music started and the curtains open, it was a different world, and I just delved straight into it. Bluebird was a really fun experience. It's always been one of those solos that I've done since school, because a beating battery is a strength of mine. So all through upper school I did practice the solo quite a bit and a bit of the pas de deux, but I never actually performed it, so it felt like one of those things I was always going to have to try out, kind of thing. At the beginning of this season I got the opportunity to step into it, and I got the opportunity to dance with Anna Rose O'Sullivan, who is just the most lovely partner in the world. She's so understanding and she's so lovely to dance with in the studio, and it really felt like we went out on stage and had a real partnership, and I just had so much fun. I had so much fun dancing with her, and I had so much fun stepping into that. Lenski's probably been my biggest and most enjoyable experience as of yet. Stepping into that world and working with Reed Anderson and Kevin O'Hare in the studio was a real beautiful experience, and I felt so supported by the company in that. And also again, I danced with Anna Rose as my Olga, so that it just feels like this year, just stepping on stage with her has just been the most incredible experience. But Lenski as a character I identify with quite strongly. He's a very sensitive soul. He's a poet. He sees, I don't know, he's obviously in his younger days, and he's figuring stuff out, when I'm actually only in my 20s and I'm still figuring out how to be an adult, really. And he falls in this magical world of love and all of that, and questions about where he's going in life and all that. It's kind of it's a 20-year-old crisis, which I think a lot of young people go through, and I don't know, stepping into that as a 22-year-old, it did feel like I was stepping into myself. Lenski is a romantic, but he's also a bit of a hothead, which I don't completely identify with as such. It was quite hard, probably it's not a tantrum as such, but his the angry scene in the ball, I've never quite felt in real life, but just because it's a different emotion doesn't mean that you don't delve right into it. And yeah, I don't identify so much with that side of him, but it was a fun part to step into. Stepping into the studio and knowing that my director was coaching me was stressful at first, but it was a really safe working environment. We were bouncing off of each other, and Kevin O'Hare's a really nice person as well. So after the initial stress of knowing that your director is in there, you know that you both want the best out of the role, and I felt really supported and really helped out in that respect. So I wouldn't say, I kind of chilled out a lot. And also with ballet, it's really difficult not to fall down that perfectionism route, because to be honest, it's our imperfections that make us different as dancers. If we all looked exactly the same, and if we all did exactly the same steps all the time, it wouldn't be massively interesting. So of course I messed up in the studio over and over again in different things, but the process of learning how to recover from it and to learning how you do things and your way of making it work was really interesting, especially in this young stage in my career. And to have my director helping me out so much with that was just such a nice process. This season, despite the coronavirus situation, I've had so many incredible opportunities. It's been a good season for me anyway. At the beginning of the season, I'm so grateful for it. I also had the opportunity to dance in Nureyev's iconic Raymonda in the Pas de Quatre, and that was a really fun experience. You had 4 guys on stage just living your best life and enjoying yourself, and that was super awesome to dance with my friends. But I actually only ended up doing one show. It was a very fun one show, but Earlier on in the week before the second show, I was on in Cavaliers and Sleeping Beauty, and there's a lift that you do with Lilac Fairy right at the end of the Adagio, and my hand wasn't in quite the right place, and my thumb also got stuck in a costume a little bit. I can't really remember what happened. All I know is as she got up there just at the end when the music hits the high note, my shoulder popped out of its socket. And luckily we had to bring her back down, and I think I popped it back in myself, but I can't really remember, to be honest. But yeah, I have to say that was a really horrible experience. Before the coronavirus lockdown situation happened, I was scheduled to step into Benno, the pas de trois man in Swan Lake, which I was super excited for. I did a few rehearsals. I did do a rehearsal on stage, so at least I got that done, and I really enjoyed that. So you have to be positive and take the best parts of it, even if I didn't get to do performance, hopefully next time. And I was also scheduled to step into Monotones. Is it Monotones 1? Yeah, Monotones 1. And I was really excited. The music is incredible. I was down to dance with Romani Padyak and Mayara Magri, and I was really excited to step into that with them, just because as a trio, I think you click as well, and it would just be nice to be in the studio with them. But you know, things happen, and lockdown happened, and it was a very serious thing that we needed to take seriously. So I have choreographed a little bit. I've delved into it a little bit. Over the last few years, I kind of decided to take a back seat with that and focus on my dance career and work really hard on that. But recent events have called for me to feel like my voice kind of needs to be heard. My piece that I did for Draftworks with the Royal Ballet a few years ago, it was a really lovely lady who was in my year at school, and I choreographed a solo on her, and it was empowering women and using Trump's words and turning them around and putting a poem by Maya Angelou in just to show the strength of the female power around the world. And I think in that moment in time, dance was calling us to speak out about that, so I decided to. I would like to step into choreography a lot more now. I know that I love it. I did put it aside for a few years, but I think especially someone with the Black experience and a person of colour, I would really like to show my point of view and to emotionally get across what it's like to be a person of colour in the world today. So I grew up in a little village in the middle of Hertfordshire, which it was very lovely. It was very green, it was very communal, but as a mixed race person in the middle of Hertfordshire in a little village, it also wasn't good. I experienced a lot of racism growing up, a few bricks through the window, stuff like that. So growing up, I was made to feel different the entire time, which I'm really, in a way, I'm very grateful for now, because it means that I have a different look at the world, and I do really push the underdogs, to think of the people that aren't spoken of, you know what I mean? But I had a very happy childhood. I have a family that love me. I love them a lot, and yeah, I'm one of 5 siblings. So it's a big family, raised by my single mum, who is a wonderful, incredible woman who I owe everything to. And yeah, I'm happy. I am the anomaly in the family, most definitely. Both my brothers are builders, and my other sister works in the social system as well. So I was quite the anomaly when I decided that I wanted to go into the ballet world from a little village in Hertfordshire when I was surrounded by guys that wanted to be builders. So that's one thing, but they're very supportive of what I do. My story is quite similar to a lot in the world. My elder sister danced, and she was dancing in a dance class, and I was back in the doorway right at the back, trying to copy all the girls in the class, and my teacher saw and was like, that kid needs to dance, and I just had such a joy for it, and they threw me straight in, and I took like a fish to water. It just became my happy place, and it still is to this day, you know. Right at the beginning, I danced at a local dance school, Georgina Pace School of Dance, and she's still very much a part of my life. She supports me in everything I do, my old dance teacher. And I was lucky enough to be given a scholarship to go to Tring Park School for the Performing Arts in Hertfordshire. So I went there from the age of, I started boarding at 8 years old, actually. So I went there from the age of 8 to 13, I think. And then I went to White Lodge Summer School. But originally, I have to say, I didn't like ballet as such. I didn't like the discipline. I was quite an out there child, just bouncing off the walls and stuff like that. But definitely when I went to White Lodge Summer School to try it out, and after the second week, Galen Stock and Jay Jolly offered me a place. Originally as a day pupil, in my actual year because they didn't have any boarding places, and because I don't come from a wealthy family and a lot of that stuff. So my mum actually didn't tell me that I was offered the place because she was scared that she would break my heart. So she had to ring them back and say, no, sorry, you can't tell him that he's been given the place. And then they called 2 years later and they're like, okay, so we found a boarding place in the year above for him. But of course, I wasn't very academically apt when I was younger, so it was a bit of a stress to like step into your GCSEs a year early. And also, I was a little bit behind in ballet, to be completely honest with you. When I stepped into White Lodge, I definitely felt unclean and a little bit, I did stuff a bit weirdly in comparison to the other guys in the class, but it made me work harder. I used to tap, I used to sing, I wanted to be in musical theatre, and I had to decide whether ballet was what I wanted to do or step down that realm. And I've always really trusted my gut. My gut kind of informs a lot of the stuff I do in my life, and my gut was telling me to go. And I couldn't be more grateful for going, because now I'm in the Royal Ballet Company and I'm super happy and I've got so many incredible opportunities. So it was definitely the best decision for me. Within my third year, I actually was lucky. I did one audition, but Kevin O'Hare offered the contracts quite early on in our year, I think. And I was told, I think it must have been, I should remember the date. I think it was like the 18th of December. I think thereabout that I actually got an email and it was just like, Kevin O'Hare wants to see you today. And I have the kind of mind that assumes the worst all the time. So we're given told that, someone else would be like, oh, I've got a place. But me, I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? But I walked in and he sat me down and was just like, I'd be really happy to welcome you into the company next year on a full contract. And yeah, I was so happy. It's what I've wanted since I was in year 10. I've worked really, really hard for it, and this is definitely the place for me. I am definitely drawn into the world of Romeo, the world of De Gier from Manon, the world of Albrecht. I think definitely like the hard-hitting, like dramatic, the journey roles. I think all of those characters, kind of like Lenski. By the end of the show, he's gone through an entire character arc, and he's changed his mind, and he's reevaluated his entire life as such. And that definitely calls to me those dramatic Macmillan roles. Yeah, so I guess that means I would like to make them cry, because all the ones that I have said, the audience end up crying. But yeah, I've done one dramatic role as such, so I can't say I have a way of doing it so far, because I've hopefully I've got a lot more to come. But for me, stepping into Lenski, I have a notebook full of writing of how I thought. So I went through every single scene. It sounds like I delved into it a little bit too much, but I was just super excited. So every single scene, I wrote down what is happening, how it might make him feel, how we might see the future from that, how to really go into that. I also read, the book is like a super, super long poem, so I did listen and read that as well, just to understand the world. So I think if I were to step into other dramatic roles, I would take the same, because for me, I think acting calls for all of those nuances, and I haven't had much experience at it yet, and I need a lot more improvement, and I'm excited about where that takes me, and I'd like to think about what this makes the character feel in that moment of time, how he would act out in that kind of, I like to analyze. It's like, even if I go see a movie, I over-analyze the entire thing when I come out. So that's kind of like how my brain works. In my second season, I was fortunate enough to work with Twyla Tharp, who is just such an icon in the dance world. And her personality is just as iconic as her pieces. She's such a character. She's such an amazing character to have in the studio. And she spotted me in my first season, and there was an adagio solo right at the end of her piece, and I did not expect for my name to be on the throwaway casting whatsoever. So it was an enormous surprise to see my name there next to that. I didn't even know anyone. I didn't even know she knew I existed. So that was a massive shock for me. And yeah, I remember my absolute first rehearsal with her. I'd learnt the solo prior, and I was running it in front of her, and the solo starts with just me walking across the studio. And because I was my second season and I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of that, I was trying to do it a certain way. And I remember she made me do it 3 times. She didn't even let me start the solo. I walked across, she was like, stop, try again. Stop, try again, 3 times. And then she was like, okay, you're not walking like you. You're not I know exactly how you're going to dance right now, and you're going to dance the way that I want you to dance, but I can't see that little fire that you have inside you whatsoever. And I'm so fortunate that I feel so fortunate that someone pulled me aside so early on in my career and said that to me, because I did feel like I was performing outwardly, you know, and especially that experience and being in that ballet and stepping out on stage and showing my soul inside. I really felt like I did do that, and I tried really hard, and she definitely started that. She lit that inside me, and now it's definitely one of my mottos, you know. I go on stage and I want to be so much like me. Even if I'm stepping into a character, of course I'm being Lenski, or maybe one day I'll be Romeo, but I'm also Joe, and a lot of my life experiences inform a lot of what happens in those ballets. And I think if you really draw from that place, not only it's not just about the audience having fun, it's also about me enjoying my job, and that's when I enjoy it most, is when I feel like I'm outwardly expressing who I am. If I were to dance Romeo at all, I would love to delve into that world, travel to Verona, read a lot of the text of the time, look a lot of the art and like the emotions that it imbues, and I'd like to dive into that world. You know what I mean? I think that's a really important part of the process for me, anyway, as a dancer, is to submerge yourself in it, and then you have all the more enjoyable experience when you're on stage, I suppose. I think the reason I dance is just because that's the best way for me to express myself completely and utterly.